Whatever the public thinks of Mike Tyson, the fact remains. He served his time in prison. Still, he continues to claim he had consensual sex with Desiree Washington. She has always maintained he raped her. The defense argued that Desiree was no innocent victim. They painted her as a gold digger who must have known that Mike Tyson wanted only one thing from her: sex. Why do you think she said you raped her?
Because she's a sick, money-hungry. She's really a bad person.
But Tyson began taking swings outside the ring. Allegations of physical and sexual abuse surrounded his marriage to Robin Givens.
You could see where Desiree Washington had seeked some special attention and caught Mike's eyes, and Mike went on stage to do a rehearsal with the girls, and you could see their eyes constantly going back and forth.
There was people that were more interesting and more attractive, but she was, she was the easiest of the lot.
How did you know that just having that conversation with her?
Because in the conversation that I was leaving to, my conversation was pretty, I don't know, I would say overtly sexual.
And in terms of overtly sexual, how overtly sexual?
I want to fornicate with you, but not in those terms, you know what I mean?
And her response?
Great.
That's not how Desiree Washington saw it. Right, so when you're in the limousine with her, tell me what you were doing. You know, how far did it go?
I think I'm kissing on her and I'm fondling her in the car. And we're getting aroused, and then I'm ready to go upstairs. So I have the limo driver drop us off.
But in the limousine, was she resisting you at all?
No.
What do you think at that point, when you got out of your limo, what do you think was in her mind was going to happen when you got upstairs?
Well, obviously I was hoping that she would say she wanted to have sex with me.
Desiree Washington and Mike Tyson had sex inside that hotel room. That much is certain. But was it consensual sex, as Tyson claims?
911 police emergency. Yes, I'm calling to report a rape.
The cops didn't think so.
You know him well, or is this somebody you just now met? It's someone that's like famous.
Coming up, the prosecution goes on the attack.
Maybe you want her to go upstairs and make out with him. Does that make it okay when he rips your clothes off of you? I think not.
Tyson's defense takes aim.
I think that Desiree was not consistent.
And later, what the jury did not hear.
It was about the unfairest trial I've ever experienced.
Even though it was 12 years ago, Mike Tyson says he can't get this picture out of his mind. Do you replay in your mind the trial at all? Do you replay her testimony?
Oh, this is just a lying, reptilian, monstrous young lady. I used to hate her guts, and she put me in that state where I don't know. I really wish I did now, but now I really do want to rape her and her mama. I know you don't like to hear that, but
no, I don't like to hear that. I admit I don't like to hear that. And in Desiree Washington, Garrison had a sympathetic victim to put on the stand.
This was a great kid, this victim. She was beautiful inside and out. She was 5'5" and 114 pounds. She had a big heart, and she was smart, but she was naive. There was an audible gasp from the gallery, and I think a little bit from the jury when she walked in the courtroom, because she was tiny.
Desiree told the jury that inside the limousine, Tyson, quote, grabbed me near him, and he went to kiss me, and I just kind of jumped back. She said that once inside Tyson's hotel room, the boxer's demeanor changed. She told the jury that Tyson said, quote, "You're turning me on." Desiree told him, "Listen, I don't know what you think I came up here for. I'm not like that." Then Desiree claimed she stood up and walked to the bathroom. In there, she did something even prosecutors could not explain. The evidence that I would have feared if I'd been the prosecution is that she went into the bathroom, removed her shield that she had in her underwear because she was starting her period, did not replace it.
Mm-hmm. Didn't have anything with her.
Why would she have taken it away? I mean,
Exactly.
The first thing, why did she even remove it then? Something's better than nothing.
Remember, when she goes in that bathroom, from her testimony, he's already trying to kiss her. He's working on her, "Oh, baby, mommy. Oh, mommy, you're turning me on." And she's all at once had this blinding flash of the obvious, oh God, I'm in the wrong place.
When I had sex, I didn't care about her.
Tyson's recollection is different.
I just had sex with her, and I said it's over. I mean, I didn't take her serious, but I'm not no rapist.
Mike, how long overall, if you can estimate, were you and Desiree in your room?
Listen, I don't know. It wasn't that long.
What's not that long to you?
15 minutes, probably 20 minutes, I can remember. You know, when I really think about it, it wasn't that long at all, because, I don't know, we didn't have sex. It wasn't no real marathon love-lust situation.
And when she went to leave, did you leave with her?
No, I just went to bed.
I mean, this kid was sore. She was hurt by this. We had a gynecologist that came and testified as to the injuries that were sustained by her. We had the guy that examined her in the ER. People that have consensual sex just don't have these kinds of injuries.
Witness after witness described Tyson as a sexual predator. Some observers say that Vincent Fuller did little to discourage that image.
My representation thinks I'm a monster. So if he thinks I'm a monster, what are these poor, ignorant bastards who I consider our jurors, my equals, who never stole a loaf of bread, my equals, whose mother never, ever had to sell some to their children, my equals, of course. They're going to convict me.
That's exactly what the jury did. After 9 hours of deliberations, Mike Tyson was guilty of rape.
Anything you can tell your supporters, Mike?
Tyson was eventually sentenced to 10 years in prison. 6 years were suspended. But was justice served? Mike Tyson spent 3 years in prison for the rape of Desiree Washington. By his own admission, he wasn't exactly a model prisoner.
I had a few altercations, all right?
Why?
Because I was, I lost hope. It's a different game. You don't care about living anymore.
Mike had to walk around with that attitude, just like he did in the ring, that don't bother me, because I'm going to kill you, type attitude to survive.
And when he was released in 1995, survival meant trying to clear his name. Why does this case stick with you so much? I mean, in the sense that it's been more than 10 years, you've served your time. Why does this have such an impact on you?
I don't know, man. Any case, you can get your dignity back, but for rape, no dignity, buddy. Taking some all these hoes out here, you taking that's not cool. That's not cool.
To this day, Tyson maintains he got a raw deal in his first trial. But did he?
The way he looked the girls up and down.
Oh, yeah, but other than that,
Didn't do much for him.
In the courtroom?
Yeah, just gave me the creeps.
Then there's the 3 eyewitnesses the jurors never got to see.
There was 3 ladies who had come to me and said they had witnessed certain things, and I passed them on to the attorneys.
3 witnesses who saw Desiree Washington willingly kissing and hugging Mike Tyson. One of them said, I think she was all over him. Once her picture and name appeared, he said, oh my God, that's Desiree Washington. She wasn't a virgin the way she was portrayed at the trial.
You could have gotten out a year earlier from prison if you said you did it, right?
Yeah.
And?
I didn't want to come home the day I was released, okay? So I don't know. What was I coming home to? What was I getting released to? Just think, man, this is always going to be hovering over my head, something I did not do. If I did it, anything I did, right, I hit that guy in Maryland, those 2 guys, let me keep my felony for that, because I'm wrong. I hit those people. But I didn't rape this woman.
So what would you like to happen? I mean, how could you become happy, and how does this get fixed?
I would love for this, you could have a mock trial, we could have a new trial, we could relocate the witnesses, have another trial, and if I lose, I'll do my time again.
Mike Tyson is unlikely to get his wish. And according to the man who prosecuted him in his rape trial, if he doesn't get a handle on his temper,
I didn't rape that moron, and plus I gave all my money, too.
His future looks very dark. If we were talking about him 10 years from now or 20 years from now, what's going to happen with him?
Oh, he'll die. I mean, somebody will get him. He'll get silly to the wrong adversary.
Really think that?
Sure, he's asking for it. He's begging for it. He confessed. He lives for the violence. It's his stock and trade. And you know, you can only get by with so many fights in traffic before you pick on somebody that didn't bring a knife to a gunfight. And then it's all over for you. I promise you that.
Good evening, I'm Hugh Downs.
And I'm Barbara Walters, and this is 2020.
From ABC News, around the world and into your home, the stories that touch your life. With Hugh Downs and Barbara Walters. This is 2020. Tonight.
Uppercut, and Marvin is hurt.
He was known worldwide as a heavyweight champ. Now he's known as a rapist. Mike Tyson could spend many years in prison. Some still believe he's innocent. If you're unsure, listen to his accuser. Tonight, in her first interview, she talks to Barbara Walters.
I decided to do this interview, and only this interview, because there were so many unanswered questions, so many things that weren't covered or that didn't come out.
Desiree Washington tells what she told the jury, his behavior when they met, how the night unfolded.
What were you doing there at 2 o'clock in the morning?
She responds to critics.
And Heather said, she asked for it, she got it, it's not fair to cry rape.
A Barbara Walters exclusive.
How many years would you suggest that he have to pay the penalty?
At last, from the victim herself.
He changed completely. He was crazy.
Why she took on Tyson. Those stories tonight, February 21st, 1992.
She convinced a jury that Mike Tyson raped her, and yet many people refused to believe it. Tonight, for the first time, she tells her story for all to hear. Her name is Desiree Washington, an 18-year-old college freshman. Now, you may have seen her photograph on People magazine, which this week published excerpts of her court testimony. But this is her first interview. And Barbara, one of the most anticipated that you've had.
Well, I think that's probably true. Beyond the fact that Mike Tyson is an international celebrity, I think one of the reasons that people are so eager to hear from the victim goes back to the William Kennedy Smith rape trial, because that was televised. And while Patricia Bowman's face wasn't seen, her testimony was heard. But at the Tyson trial, cameras were barred. And so tonight is the first time that those outside the courtroom will have a chance to see and hear Desiree Washington. She answers the questions that people are asking and then discusses the rape itself. Mike Tyson was convicted by a jury on 1 count of rape and 2 counts of criminal deviant behavior. Still, many people have been rallying to his defense. There have been protests and petitions on his behalf. We begin with Mike Tyson as we used to know him. Mike Tyson won the heavyweight championship in 1986 with this punch. Trevor Berbick went down in the second round. Mike Tyson was 20 and the youngest world heavyweight champion in history. Tyson had learned this powerful fighting style in reform school, where he'd been sent after a series of juvenile offenses that included robbery and assault. His fists became his fortune. The Tyson magic seemed invincible until November of 1990. That's when Buster Douglas knocked him out after 10 rounds, winning away the heavyweight title. Tyson had vowed to win it back, but his life was by now complicated by a strain of anger that extended beyond the ring.
Away from me.
He'd had a checkered history with women for years, but in 1988, he and actress Robin Givens tied the knot. It looked to all the world like a storybook marriage. It wasn't. The first admission of trouble in paradise, or violence, reaching into this home, came when I interviewed the couple that September.
He's got a side to him that's scary. Michael is intimidating.
What happens?
He gets out of control, throwing, screaming.
Does he hit you?
He shakes, he pushes, he swings. And just recently, I've become afraid.
2 days later, Robin Givens moved out of their estate. She filed for divorce.
I'm in a dream, day after day. Beautiful women in such an array.
Tyson was in Indianapolis last summer for the Miss Black America pageant. He was asked to help promote the contest, and in the process, promoted introductions to some of the contestants.
Number 8.
One of them was Miss Black Rhode Island, 18-year-old Desiree Washington. She didn't win the title, but she was definitely an all-American girl. A beautiful baby in a family of 3 children, she was a varsity cheerleader at Coventry High School and played on the school's championship softball team. She did volunteer work and taught Sunday school, too, all the while on the honor roll. In her senior year, she was chosen as a goodwill ambassador to Moscow, the only black in a group of 34 students from across the country. Desiree's father is a bookkeeper in the motel business. Her mother's a personnel specialist. They raised her as a strict Baptist. She was thrilled, she said, to be chosen Miss Black Rhode Island and was having the time of her life at the pageant last summer, until the early hours of July 19th. That, a jury agreed, is when Mike Tyson raped her in this room at the Canterbury Hotel. The ordeal of the trial is finally behind her, and Desiree wants to get on with her life. She agreed to an interview, her one and only interview, she says, to answer her critics. The special prosecutor in the Tyson trial came with her at our invitation. Greg Garrison was along for moral support, but also to answer some of the legal questions surrounding this complicated story. How much did you know about Mike Tyson before you met him?
I just knew that he was an excellent boxer because my dad and my brother and my grandfather were great fans of his. I mean, they wouldn't miss a fight. They'd crowd around in the family room and root for him and things like that. And that was all I really knew about him.
So he was kind of a hero in the family?
Oh, yes.
So that you would have been thrilled to meet him?
Oh, yes.
Where did you get the courage after all of this, especially knowing that your father and brother thought that he was such a wonderful man? Where did you get the courage to come forward and press charges?
I would say from God, and my mom and dad. And
your father, even though he was a fan of Mike Tyson, said, go do it?
My dad is a bigger fan of mine.
When you met Mike Tyson at that beauty contest, he came and saw all of the girls. What was he like? What did he say to you? What did you say to him? How did he appear?
He was very nice. To me, he pointed to me and said, you're a nice Christian girl.
How did he know that?
He had been talking to Charlie Neal, so I assumed that Charlie Neal told him...
Who was in charge of the pageant?
Yes, he was the master of ceremonies, so I assumed that he told him that I was a Christian girl. And that's what he said to me. He was really, really friendly, and he came up to me and hugged me and said, would you like to go out on a date with me? And I just said, sure. I was so surprised, and I couldn't believe it.
And excited? Really?
Yes, I was.
Did you feel romantic towards him?
No. I didn't find him attractive. I was just shocked. That's all I can...
Wow, he asked me? You mean like that?
Yeah, exactly.
At the trial, the centerpiece of the defense was that you knew from the beginning that Mike Tyson wanted to have sex with you.
No, I
That's
didn't.
what was said.
I know.
Did he say anything to you that was sexual?
No, not at all. He didn't.
Just what?
Would you like to go out on a date with me? I mean, I don't see anyone who can find something sexual about that, you know. He even had mentioned dinner and things like that.
But no sexual kind of, we'll go back to my room, or no, gee, I'd sure love to hug you or kiss you, or...
No, nothing like that.
Did he touch you?
He hugged me, like I stated, but not in any sexual way.
One beauty pageant contestant testified at the trial that you made remarks about Mike Tyson's physique, that specifically you talked about his butt. You talked about...
Yeah, I did know about that.
Okay. Did you ever say anything about his physique?
No, I didn't. I don't know what this person's motive was for what she said, but I know for a fact that I never said the things that this person is saying that I said.
Another beauty pageant contestant quoted you as saying, he's got a lot of money and he's dumb. You saw what Robin Givens got out of him.
That's another thing that I never said. The only thing that was mentioned about Robin Givens was the next day, after everything that had happened to me, there was a group of girls around talking about, well, Robin Givens did this to him and Robin Givens did that to him, these things that I hadn't even known the day before. And I said, well, you know, I wouldn't judge her too much. He's not a very nice person or something like that. I said something to that effect, something in her defense, because I had seen firsthand how crazy, in my opinion, this man is. And for her to have to live with him and for them to put her down, I thought was wrong at the time. And I was very upset the next day. And that was the reason that I said what I said the next day. But it wasn't prior to the rape.
Now, for the first time, Desiree confirmed in our interview what previously had only been rumored, that she'd been offered a bribe before the trial. Desiree, I understand that after the indictment, you were offered over $1 million to drop charges. Is that true?
Yes, I was. Yes. And the people who offered me the money told me what to say. They told me to say that I was afraid because of what happened to Patricia Bowman, that I was afraid because of how Anita Hill was exploited. They gave me a million excuses.
So you could have gotten out of it, taken the money, and lived a nice, comfortable life.
Oh, definitely.
Yes. And you and your family, I assume, don't have a lot of money.
No, we don't.
What did you do when you had this offer?
I said, no way. I reported it to my lawyer, who took it to a higher authority, and it was being taken care of.
Do you know exactly who offered you that money? I mean, do you know that it was Mike Tyson's people or Tyson himself?
I'm really not at liberty to answer that
This
question.
is something that's being discussed or looked into or something like that now. Were you aware that after the indictment, Desiree was offered money to drop charges?
I have some information about that.
And is it information that's being handled in some way now?
I cannot comment beyond what I've already told you.
Despite the prosecutor's reluctance, it is now known that an FBI investigation is underway. Let's go back a little bit. Your telephone rings, it's 1:30 in the morning, and it's Mike Tyson on the phone.
Yes.
Okay. What did he say?
He said, can you come out? And I was shocked. I said, at this time, and do what? And he said that he just wanted to talk to me. And at that time, one of my roommates interrupted and said, well, there's all those after parties and everything. So then I get back on the phone and I say, well, why don't you come up here? And one of my roommates had rollers in her hair. And she said, no, look at me. And so he said, well, just come down. I just want to talk to you. I just want to talk to you. At that point, I'm thinking, well, we could go to these after parties. We can go around Indianapolis and everything. And I just, I wasn't really thinking anything bad. And he said, well, I just want to talk to you. Just come down. Just come down. And so I said, okay. And I got dressed again. I grabbed my camera. And
you thought you were going to take pictures of celebrities and rock stars?
Yeah.
Would you have gone out with him had Mike Tyson not been famous?
I don't know if I would have gone out with him if he wasn't famous, because one of the reasons that I went is because I wanted those pictures. My dad would have been so thrilled to see pictures of Mike Tyson and all these other people that I thought that I would meet.
And then what happened?
I went down to the limo and got in, and the next thing I knew, I was at the Canterbury Hotel.
And he said what to get you to go upstairs?
He just said, I have to stop up and get something. And then he mumbled something, and then he said something about a bodyguard. So I assumed that we were going up to get something, and I didn't really know what he was talking about with the bodyguard. So he just said, come on, and I didn't think anything of it, and so many people judge me on that. First of all, why I went out at 2 o'clock in the morning, and secondly, why I would go up to his hotel room. And I think even the most street-smart person wouldn't have thought anything of it. If someone just says, I have to stop up to get something, that doesn't mean stay up in the room. That doesn't mean have sex. That doesn't mean anything but stopping up and picking up something, at least in my mind. Maybe now I look back on it and I say, wow, I was set up the whole time, you know, this had to have been a setup. He had it all planned that he was going to do this to me. But at the time, you know, with the train of thought that I was on, you know, with my camera and everything else, I had no intention of doing anything with him, and I didn't think that he had any intention of doing anything with me, you know. So, you know, without thinking, I just went in there, and, you know, I don't know many 18-year-olds that would have been thinking that this man who was my father's hero, who was a celebrity, would want to do something like that to me. And, you know, now, like I said, I've changed a lot, and I'm not as trusting of people or anything, but if this hadn't happened to me and someone just said, come on, we have to stop up for something, I still probably wouldn't think anything of it.
Do you think today it was bad judgment that you went into that room?
Naturally, I do because of what happened. But if nothing had happened, I don't think I would have thought it was bad judgment.
You know, maybe it's the age difference. But there are a lot of people, and you know it, Desiree, who say 2 o'clock in the morning in a man's room with beds. What were you doing there at 2 o'clock in the morning?
I just wasn't thinking. There's no other explanation for it. There's nothing that I can say. And so many people don't remember when they were 18 years old and, you know, what they would have done if a celebrity called them at that time and said that he was leaving the next day. This was the only opportunity to get pictures of my father's hero, as I was thinking at the time, you know? And so many people don't want to understand that, or don't want to put themselves in my shoes, or don't want to see my reasoning. And no matter what I say to them, they're not going to believe me anyway. But I've already said it to the jury, and that's all that counts.
The Washington Post conducted interviews with young women in college of your age, black women, and they didn't seem to show a lot of sympathy for you. One said, 18-year-olds are not naive in this day and age. What did she think a guy wanted at 2 in the morning? Another said, she asked for it, she got it, it's not fair to cry rape.
It's sad. It's sad that women in 1992 feel that way. It really is.
I've seen Mike Tyson. I've seen the sweet side of him and the quiet side of him. Was he sweet and kind and quiet to you when you met him?
When I first met him, yes. His voice was so different than it was when he was raping me. It completely changed. He completely changed. The look on his face completely changed. Everything about him completely changed. He changed from a sweet and nice person that I thought he was earlier to just this animal, like a demon or something.
In minutes?
In seconds.
You weigh what?
108 pounds.
Could you, I mean, it almost seems like a dumb question, but was there any way of fighting back?
I hit him. It was like hitting a wall. I cried. I did anything to get him to stop. I couldn't defeat him physically, so I could only beg and cry, and it was the worst feeling I've ever felt in my life, just completely out of control. I had no control of anything. All I could do was beg and cry. That's all.
And it made no difference?
It made no difference. I said, please, I'm starting school. I was crying, and I said, I don't need a baby, and I, please don't, you don't have a condom on. I just cried and begged for just anything, just to get him to stop and get away from me so that I could get out of there. But he just said, well, you don't have anything, and I know you don't have anything, and neither do I, and he just continued on doing whatever he was doing. I begged, I cried, I did everything that I could, and nothing worked.
Were you fearful for your life?
Yes, I was. He changed completely. He was crazy. And when someone's crazy and someone's sick like that, they don't know what they're doing. And he was sick, and I couldn't help but to be afraid.
Did he say anything to you then, afterwards?
He said...
Did he realize what he'd done?
He said, don't you love me now? And then when I was leaving and he asked me to stay, I said, why? So you can do this to me again? And he said, you're just a baby. You're just a crybaby, that's all. You're just a baby. That's why you're crying, because you're just a crybaby, that's all. And then he said, well, then it's a long walk back, like almost trying to force me to stay. And I was throwing my clothes on as fast as I could at that time. And he just picked up the phone, and I assumed he called the limo, but I was out of there.
And went back in the limo to your roommates?
Yes.
What did you say to them then?
When I first came in, I was just bawling, and I didn't want to tell them what happened. And in my heart, I knew what happened, but I didn't want to accept it. I didn't want, but I couldn't hold back the tears, so I had to say something. So when I first came in, I said he tried to rape me, and I ran into the bathroom, and I was just bawling.
Mr. Garrison, in addition to the count of rape, Mike Tyson was also found guilty of 2 counts of criminal deviant behavior. I'm going to ask you this because I have a feeling it will be just too hard for Desiree to answer. What in this case is meant by criminal deviant behavior?
Hard for me, too. But oral genital contact is one specification, is one count against him of which he was convicted, and the other one is object penetration of the sex organ of another person, in this case a finger, and was found guilty on that also.
So it isn't just the intercourse. That's bad enough, but there were other things as well.
Plenty.
When we come back, answers to more questions people are asking. The day after the rape, Desiree Washington danced in the beauty pageant. How could she have done that? Before Mike Tyson is sentenced, the judge will hear from Desiree Washington. What does she think the punishment should be? And we'll hear what she would say to Mike Tyson if she were to meet him now. We continue now our interview with Desiree Washington. The 18-year-old college freshman Mike Tyson was convicted of raping. The rape occurred in the early morning of Friday, July 19th, a day of rehearsals for the Miss Black America pageant. Desiree refused to drop out of the competition, a decision the defense tried to use against her.
Hey, black girl.
Mike Tyson's lawyers showed this videotape to the jury at his trial. They argued that Desiree Washington, if she was indeed the victim of a rape, would not have been rehearsing and performing over the next 2 days of the beauty pageant. Desiree did go on with the show, despite, she says, feeling pain. She had gone to the hospital the day following the attack and consulted a rape counselor. Her parents had arrived in Indianapolis for the pageant, and with their support, she decided to press charges. The day after the rape, you went back to the pageant and participated in it. You danced in it?
Oh, yes.
How could you do that?
I was in pain, but as I stated when I was on the stand at the trial, I played softball for 12 years. I played with cracked teeth, fractured ribs. I am not a quitter. If I were a quitter, I wouldn't have gone through with this trial. I had worked hard for this pageant for 6 months, and I was not going to quit no matter what happened. When I start something, and I know in my heart that I'm right and that I've worked for it and I've done what God wants me to do, there's nothing in the world that can stop me.
The press said that you were very controlled emotionally. Some complained that you were too controlled. You didn't cry. Mm-mm. Were you holding back the emotions?
I have lived with this for 6 months, or at the time of the trial, it's been 6 months. I have cried so much. I've gone over it so much. I live this every night. I have nightmares every night, almost. But I've been over this so many times in my mind and just every day that there was no need for me to cry on the stand. This is what happened. This is the truth. Believe me or not. But if you don't believe me, this is going to happen to someone else. And the next person's going to be dead, But I will still be able to look at myself in the mirror and know that I did the right thing. And I didn't feel that I needed to get on the stand and put on tears. I'm not that type of person. I'll tell you the truth. I'm honest. It's straight out, and that's me. I just didn't feel the need to get up there and entertain the press.
What was the lowest point for you?
I would say, honestly, the lowest point for me was One day, I was all alone by myself in my room at college, and I just looked in the mirror, and I had been all alone for so long. I just became so antisocial, and I didn't make any friends, and I didn't trust anyone. I didn't want anyone around me, and I just didn't want anyone near me at all. I went from being such an outgoing person, someone who was just so social, I was voted friendliest in high school, to just so secluded. I just sat in my room and in the corner of my bed, and I just couldn't move for the longest time. I couldn't believe it. I said, why? Why me? Why did this happen to me? I was just such an outgoing person, such a loving person, such a trusting person, and I miss that person. But in a way, it's good that I'm not that person, because now I won't be hurt again like I was.
Some supporters of Mike Tyson have said that this turned out to be a racist trial, that Mike Tyson was convicted because he's a black man.
That also puzzles me, and that also hurts me, because our people fought for years to get in the civil rights movement for equal rights, equal treatment, and to take the side of a black man over a black woman is not equal. That's not what I believe that we fought for years. I have worked so hard for everything that I am now, and to have all that taken away from me, and to have people say that he has so much more to offer society, is sick. It disgusts me.
Do you have any plans to write articles, or perhaps to write a book?
No, I have no plans. This is the only time that I will be addressing society. I'm not going to go through a trial again by going on some of these shows that have people who have no idea of what happened to me ask me questions based on ignorance.
Do you want to tell people why you wanted to do this interview?
I decided to do this interview, and only this interview, because there are so many unanswered questions, so many things that weren't covered that people have judged me on and made opinions about without knowing all the facts, or without knowing me as a person and knowing why I did what I did, why I stood for my cause, and I just wanted to address those issues. And if they still feel negatively towards me after this interview, then there's nothing that I can do.
What are your plans now?
To finish college and hopefully get myself back again and be strong enough to go into law and politics after.
What are your feelings towards Mike Tyson now?
I pity him. And that's all I can feel for him. From the beginning, when I first got home, I prayed not to be bitter or to feel hateful or anything, and one thought came through my mind over and over again, and that was after he did what he did to me. He said, "Don't you love me now?" And I thought about it, and I can only pity this man because he's sick. And if he had come to me any time before, or gone to his lawyers or to anyone and said, "I was wrong," the first step to any recovery is admitting that you have the problem. I admit that I have a problem and I need help. Get me some help. I wouldn't have gone through this trial.
If Mike Tyson had come to you afterwards and said, "I was wrong, I apologize," you would have dropped charges?
I need help and gone to get that help. And I could ensure the fact that he would go and get that help, and that, no one else would be subjected to this, because I pity him. I feel really bad for him, for the person that he is right now and how he's been.
Is the judge going to call you to ask you for your opinion about his sentencing? We've read that.
Yes.
How many years would you suggest that he have to pay the penalty?
As long as it takes for him to be rehabilitated.
Mr. Garrison, you're going to be asked by the judge what kind of a sentence, as the prosecutor, you recommend. What are you going to say?
We're going to recommend that he do time. It can go down as far as 6 years and up as far as 20. But it'll be significant.
If Mike Tyson were in front of you and you could talk to him, what would you say, if you could, to Mike Tyson today?
I would tell him that he's sick, that he hurt me really bad. I would tell him, you need help. I didn't do this to hurt you. I didn't do this to take your career away. I did it because you need help. And if your so-called friends weren't big enough to tell you, at least I was. You hurt me, and I was big enough to stand up to you and tell you need help. you hurt me and I'm trying to help you. And that's all I could tell him.
Riveting. Well, I would suppose that Tyson is going to appeal, and I'd like to know how.
He is going to appeal, and we have learned, and it hasn't been reported until right now, that the brilliant, celebrated Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz will be handling Mike Tyson's appeal. Dershowitz, as most of us remember, is a man who got a reversal on appeal for Klaus von Bülow.
I remember that. That's a start for an appeal. But in Desiree Washington's future, now, is she going to file a civil suit? That could mean monetary compensation.
She says she hasn't decided that, and right now she doesn't have legal counsel, and she might. She has bills to pay. But, you know, if she were out for money, we paid nothing for this, as you know. She could have gone on television programs that paid. She could sell her stories, articles to magazines. You know, if money were the object, she could have made a lot of money by now.
That's right. Doesn't appear greedy, and she also doesn't appear vengeful, because she said that Mike Tyson should serve time, only that amount of time, to get him rehabilitated. Can he be rehabilitated in prison, do you think?
Well, we asked this of Greg Garrison. You know, prisons don't ordinarily rehabilitate people, and he said that they would try to make sure that there was, I guess, psychiatric help for rehabilitation if indeed he does serve a sentence.
You know, the whole subject of date rape, that's so... I would like to take time later in the program and discuss this with you, because there's a lot more to talk about. Fascinating. Right now, let me ask you something. If you were suffering from back pain, would you go see a chiropractor?